We have some tough news to pass along. The great Vin Scully has passed away at the age of 94. From Brooklyn to L.A., Scully was the voice of the Dodgers and is generally regarded as the greatest baseball play-by-play man of all time. Beginning in 1950, he called Dodger games for 67 seasons, and in 1982, he was honored with the Ford C. Frick Award. In addition to his Dodgers duties, Scully announced NFL games and PGA Tour events for CBS and later MLB games and golf events for NBC. In all, he broadcast 25 World Series and 12 All-Star games, as well as 3 perfect games and 20 no-hitters. Matt Vasgersian now with a look at the man who provided the soundtrack to summer for so many people, Vin Scully.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant opening day. It's goosebump time here at Dodger Stadium.
Vin Scully was the greatest broadcaster in baseball that there ever was. Maybe the greatest sports broadcaster there ever was.
2-2 to Harvey Keene. 1 strike away. Sandy into his windup.
I've been around a lot of professional athletes and a lot of broadcasters over the years. One guy who I was in awe of is Vin Scully.
In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
There was just something to the tone of Vin's voice that, you know, it was exciting.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
Exciting and yet soothing.
Perhaps the most beautiful and dramatic moment in the history of sports. Let there be a prayer for every life. And wherever you are, maybe you, in silent tribute to Campanella, can also say a prayer for his well-being.
And he had ways of philosophizing about things that were extraordinary. It wasn't baseball, it was life.
His voice, for one thing, is something that you never forget.
We've had all the pomp and circumstance. We've had all the fuss and feathers.
It's time for Dodger
baseball.
There are certain broadcasters that they come along, it don't matter what era they come along in. There's no one like Vin Scully.
Vincent Edward Scully was born November 29, 1927 in Bronx, New York. Growing up blocks from the Polo Grounds, Scully quickly became enamored with the game of baseball and the excitement it elicited from fans.
I was a big Giants fan. I grew up in the Polo Grounds. My first love was with the roar of the crowd, and that's what really intrigued me. And when I was 8 years old, I wrote a composition for the Nuns saying that I wanted to be a sports announcer. And that was the beginning of the love affair from 7 or 8 years old anyway.
That love affair would manifest itself years later at Fordham University, where Scully's broadcasts of Ram athletic games left a lasting impression on Red Barber, the then legendary voice of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
And one day, Red, in the course of a broadcast, said, this young man from Fordham had been writing to me and sending me tapes of his broadcasts of Fordham sports. And so I put him on a football broadcast this winter that I was anchoring. I thought it was terrific. So I'm going to give him a little shot here with the Dodgers.
There was an opening, and Red decided, I'm going to take that redheaded kid, and I'm going to make him an announcer.
And Scully was a very apt pupil and a very rapid one.
Vin learned at Red's feet. And then he said he's going to do an inning every game. And then for that summer, he did 1 inning every game.
Here's Vin Scully. Vin? Thank you, Jerry, and good evening, everybody. And despite the fact that I have just knocked a cup of coffee in my lap and a tooth that's just out of the cleaners, it's great to be home.
And we knew he was great right away, because we would talk on the corner. The guys would get together. Did you hear this kid? Wow, he's good.
Scully's broadcasts resonated beyond the street corners in Brooklyn. And when Red Barber left the team following the 1953 season, Scully became the Dodgers' primary announcer.
1 out in the first inning, in case you might have just dropped by. No score.
In 1955, he was behind the mic for Game 7 of the World Series between his Brooklyn Dodgers and the crosstown rival New York Yankees, a moment that would prove to be one of the most emotional of his career.
The Dodgers had never won a World Series. And finally, on the last out, I said, rather simply, ladies and gentlemen, the Brooklyn Dodgers are the champions of the world. Well, a lot of people all winter long said to me, how in the world could you have been so calm? Well, the truth is, I could not have said another word without breaking down and crying.
Just 3 years removed from Brooklyn's first title, Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley relocated the team to Los Angeles, and with it came the budding voice of the franchise.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Vin Scully speaking to you from the Los Angeles Coliseum as opening day has finally come.
Vin goes to the West Coast, and he, within a year, instantly, straight away, becomes the Dodgers evangelist, its ambassador to the public. People are stuck on the freeway for hour after hour after hour. What better way to spend it than to pull up a chair, even in your car, as Vin says, and listen to him?
And let the personnel and the years change, they are still the Giants and the Dodgers, no two ways about it.
People thought, wow, this guy is so good, and they started bringing their transistor radios to the ballpark. Even though they were seeing the game, that wasn't good enough. They needed to know Vinny's take on it.
In 1958, I made a trip with a bunch of disc jockeys out from Miami, and we went to the Coliseum. And everybody brought radios to listen to Scully do the games, and there was feedback. He actually had to say, turn your radios down. There's too much feedback off the broadcast. I'd never seen that.
Over the course of his storied career, Scully provided a soundtrack to some of the greatest moments in baseball history. On September 9th, 1965, he chronicled Sandy Koufax's perfect game.
It is 9:46 p.m. 2-2 to Harvey Keene. One strike away. Sandy into his windup. Here's the pitch. Swung on and missed. A perfect game. On the scoreboard in right field, it is 9:46 p.m. in the city of the Angels, Los Angeles, California.
Most people in Southern California said to me, and it was written up, how dramatic, how theatrical it was that I had the time. Well, it was pure luck. I was just giving it for Sandy and for his grandchildren, and it just seemed to play very well.
Vin was again behind the mic a decade later as a different type of drama unfolded at Dodger Stadium, as Cubs center fielder Rick Monday rescued an American flag from would-be arsonists.
And Rick Monday runs and takes it away from him. I think a guy was going to set fire to the American flag. Can you imagine that?
From Koufax and Monday's perfect plays to Buckner's blunder.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
To the most perfectly pitched game in World Series history.
Got him. The greatest game ever pitched in baseball history by Don Larson. A no-hitter, a perfect game in a World Series.
Vin Scully has given voice to some of baseball's most dramatic moments, but arguably his most iconic call of all time came in Game 1 of the 1988 Fall Classic.
I can still hear Vinny's voice when Kirk Gibson is limping out of the dugout.
And look who's coming up. And with 2 out, you talk about a roll of the dice. This is it.
They set the moment. The setup and the follow-up is also tremendous.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone. In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
It's not really real until Vin calls it, and people ran to hear that call. It was the perfect line.
If Scully's call of Kirk Gibson's World Series walk-off was his most iconic, perhaps his most poignant came with Hank Aaron's record-breaking 715th career home run.
The highlight we always hear is Milo Hamilton. You know, there's a new home run champion of all time. You know, it's brilliant. What you don't hear is Vinny's description on the Dodger radio.
The high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone.
And then Vinny never said a word for 3 or 4 minutes after that. The fireworks went off, the roar of the crowd. He just let it play. When he came back on the air, he described the scene with 50,000 people on their feet.
What a marvelous moment for baseball What a marvelous moment for Atlanta and the state of Georgia. What a marvelous moment for the country and the world. A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South.
I'm watching this in a hotel room 25 years after the fact, and not only gave me goosebumps, but brought a tear to my eye, because he was able to take it beyond just the baseball significance into the significance for our whole society. And I thought that was a better bit of baseball broadcasting than anybody had ever put together before.
Vin Scully spent over 6 decades broadcasting Dodgers baseball. In 1982, he was inducted into the Broadcasters Wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame. In 2009, he was named the top sportscaster of all time by the American Sportscasters Association. Vin Scully will forever be remembered as one of the greatest broadcasters and Dodgers of all time.
He is every bit as important to the game of baseball as anybody who's ever played it.
He's the best there ever was and the best there ever will be.
For all those glorious years, just thank you. Thank you so very, very much.
The great Vin Scully has passed away at the age of 94. He leaves behind 5 children: Kevin, Todd, Aaron, Kelly, and Catherine, 21 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. Vin Scully gone at 94.